Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flazanes, your producer and empowerment strategist. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to learn how to talk with animals. I've got on Val Heart. This is been a long time in the making, this episode. I will tell you that I have hired her for a session, and what we talk about on today's show actually helped a situation here at home with Domino, and you'll hear more about that later. So there was evidence of it working there, but I immediately hired her once we got done with this episode to work on the bigger deal that I have going on with my cat Sugar. And then after that amazing session, I went on to hire her for more, because the healing is not done, and I see such benefit in being able to do this. Now, she is super busy, which is why we have offered you one of her free gifts. jjflazanes.com/animals gets you the 3 steps to learning how to communicate with animals. And then past that, you can dive into some of the other things that she has, because I know for me, it was months just to get an appointment. So if you're someone who needs immediate help right now in learning how to talk to your animals, go to jjflazanes.com/animals to get the guide, and then you can start doing it on your own. You're going to hear a lot about Val's story today, so all I'm going to say is that she is a best-selling author, a TEDx speaker, and has been featured on ABC, NBC, Fox News, as well as in People Magazine, My San Antonio, and Great Day San Antonio. Val also created the Heart Wisdom System for solving problems with pets. Her work includes communication, intuitive medical scanning, quantum leap therapies, and the Body Talk system. She is called the Real Dr. Dolittle and is the founder of the Heart School of Animal Communication. She hosts the best online animal talk coaching and mastery club in the world, and she believes that anyone who loves animals can learn to speak their language as well. To learn more about her and her work and get the copy of her free book, Hidden Secrets to Communicating with Pets, go to jjflazanes.com/animals. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the show, Val.
JJ, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I know that you're an animal lover too.
Oh, yes. I think my community has heard me talk about my cats multiple times. I have rescued cats many times, been a foster for cats. So yes, they know I'm a cat at heart, and I was a cat in a past life. So I don't know if I've mentioned that before to everybody, but I was absolutely a cat in a past life. So let's talk about, we have had one other session that I bet you most of the people who are listening now have not heard. I've had only one episode on animal communicating and animal communicators, but you do so much more. So let's start off with your story and how you even ever got to realize that you could hear animals and that you were clairaudient and just your whole story.
Well, I love that. How much time do we have again?
Well, we can keep going, and you can always come back.
I know, it's all good. Oh, I love it. But you know, it's interesting. I grew up a lonely, only child outside rural Texas and outside Austin. And I was highly sensitive and empathic, which, as you know, being an intuitive person yourself, has some challenges of its own when you aren't surrounded by people who get it, who understand and can help you. So what I wound up becoming was a manically depressed, suicidal teenager. It was thanks to my animals that I survived. I had dogs and cats and birds. I had a guinea pig. I had rats. We had chickens and pigs. When I was 13, my grandfather, who was a cowboy, got me my first horse. And Maisie was her name. And every night after my parents went to sleep, I would sneak out of the house, go over to the barn and throw my arms around her neck and cry into her mane and just tell her how deeply, deeply sad I was about life, about everything. And I would always hear her voice in my head. She would say, "Child, what's wrong?" Right. And I would just pour that out to her. And she would always come back to me and tell me funny things, give me different insights and viewpoints about whatever I was struggling with at the moment. And it was really thanks to her that I would survive another day. And I'm so grateful because, you know, I've gone on, I managed to get through that period of my life. And then I began working with my intuition and developing, you know, my abilities. I'm so grateful for that. And at one point, being a cat lover, you'll appreciate this. My husband was a professional tenor, sang opera and things like that. And he had invested in a very expensive entertainment center with giant Bose speakers. And we had two cats, and they loved to use his speakers as scratching posts. The perfect scratching posts, right? Well, no, not so much. And he was very angry with them, very grumpy, Mr. Grumpy Pants. And I was doing some meditation at the time, and I was really worried because they were either going to lose their life or their home. I wasn't sure which was going to come first. He was very angry with them. So I started into my meditation that morning, and I downloaded that intuitive download. It's that gut knowing, that aha light bulb kind of an insight. And the idea is to, instead of going inward to do my meditation, that I should do it in a uniquely different way and focus toward the cats. So Peach and Tuffy Tiger. So I did that, and I saw things and heard voices that were not my own. I was seeing images. They shared all kinds of things with me. It kind of blew my mind. And when I finished the process and I took a deep breath and I opened my eyes, both cats were staring at me intently. And you know what, JJ? They never used his speakers as scratching posts again.
I believe it. I know it. I wish I could do it more because there have been times where when I adopted a kitten and Suki didn't end up making it, her life goal in this lifetime was to find a deep and profound love. And when she did in me, she's like, okay, I'm done. And she ended up getting a fatal disease that I could not in any way fix. And I was devastated. But while she was with us for a small amount of time, and I was trying to integrate her into the family, I had taken my older cat, Domino, and she and I went to the guest room because I was separating them, and I slept with Domino to make sure she knew she was important. And I remember I was getting ready to go to sleep. The lights were off. I pulled up the covers and I said, Domino, come here. And she literally said to me, it's okay, Mom. Like, we can go back in. And I thought to myself, did I just make that up? Did I really hear that? It was so distinct. Not that it was a different voice. I mean, it was a voice in my head. So it was my voice, but I thought, okay. So I opened the door, and that was the first night the four of us all slept together. Wow. On the bed. And so it's happened. Again, I would love to have it happen more. I know you teach a class, and we're going to get to that because that was, we all have these intuitive abilities. It's whether they become strengthened or not. It's our access to them. It's our belief or denial of them, for sure. And I would love to inspire everyone today, especially because I know that you do teach classes. It's not just hire you to help their animals, but to teach people how to do this. And I created a strengthening intuition course because I've noticed over the last couple of years doing my live events and work with some of the healers I work with and being with people and facilitating myself, I've just been able to strengthen it. I have sometimes the vision. I sometimes have the pictures. I sometimes have the messages. I sometimes have the knowing. And I've always had the knowing in certain areas, but I just want people to get the most out of today, besides what you're going to teach us about our animals and how you work with animals as well, is to tell us about your class and how people can get on this train, because we as some people who aren't necessarily open to that, or when they have those doctors and those vets and those people that they know, like I know intuitively, and maybe we can talk about that later, I know intuitively what's wrong with my cat, but finding a vet or finding a solution, like I haven't found it yet. And I keep trying, and it's getting better, and I listen to my intuition, but as I digress. So a horse was talking to you, and I want to ask you about that because you knew with no doubt that it was the horse and not your own voice, correct?
Yes. So let's fast forward a couple of months after the extraordinary cat and scratching post speaker issue. So in January of 1993, I was hanging out with a friend of mine who's renowned for neuromuscular work. She can melt scar tissue. She can realign bodies. She has extraordinary cranial sacral work. Amazing. Anyway, we're standing there in her stable area, and we're working with her horse. She has a black beauty of a Percheron mare called Valkyrie. And Valkyrie had a big knot, I mean, bigger than the size of my fist on her hip, on her backside and her hip. And Charlene is excellent at melting knots like that, about with wounds and things like that, helping them heal quickly. Well, in this case, she'd been working at this for a while and it wasn't budging. That knot was just stuck. So I'm at Valkyrie's head holding her, and she's back there working on her body. And we're chatting, as girls will do. So, and all of a sudden, I heard Valkyrie in my head just as clearly as I can hear you, and hopefully you can hear me, just that clear. And it stunned me. I just was, wow, who was the what? Because it was just us, just three girls, the two people and two women and the horse. And she had made a comment about one of Charlene's dogs. She raised German Shepherds at the time. She had a young stud dog who was very full of himself and a bit of a problem to manage and train. And Valkyrie had a comment about how to use her boss mare attitude to apply to the dog to change his attitude a bit. So it was really extraordinary. It's extraordinary insight. And I looked at Charlene and I said, you may think I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but maybe I'm crazy pants. I don't know. But this is what I just heard your horse say. And she thought about it a second and she said, well, that makes perfect sense to me. So we wound up in a three-way conversation with the horse, asking her questions and relaying the answers. And it was just a fabulous experience. And at one point, Charlene said, ask her about this knot on her hip. And I asked Valkyrie, oh, so what happened, right? Tell me about that. What happened? And she sucked me into her memory. I can't explain it any other way. It's like whoop, right inside her head. And she showed me when and where and what was going on and how the injury happened. There were several men that were trying to load her in a trailer. It was a very hot, dusty Texas day. She did not want to get on the trailer. Thank you very much. And she was fighting them. I would say hoof and nail. Anyway, at one point, she swung around. She banged the poop out of her hip right there on that metal gate. I mean, I could see it. I could feel it. I could smell the caliche dust in the air. It was so powerful and strong. And when she finished her story, JJ, I swear to God, she took a big, big breath. Her head went down a little bit, relaxing. She started licking and chewing. And that knot that had not budged in months, no matter what Charlene did, it simply melted right before our eyes.
Sounds like she needed to express that. Sounds like what happens in our bodies when we're repressing emotion, that we're holding it in, and that knot was about her expressing her emotions. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. She needed to be heard. She needed that story to be told. She wanted to be understood and respected, and as soon as we got it, she could let it go. Body workers will often say the issues are in the tissues. And that's also the case with our animals for sure. Yeah.
So it's 1993. This happens with Valkyrie. And are you yet in business? Have you hung the shingle yet? Are you saying, hey, I'm an animal communicator?
At that point, I didn't even know that such a thing existed. It was all new. I'd never even heard of anyone able to do this. And so Charlene actually started taking me around and introducing me to her clients. And what we discovered is that if I would communicate with her clients' show horses, with their animals, if I did that communication piece before and during her sessions working with them, that we would get much faster results, at least 30% accelerated processing. I remember one horse that was actually dangerous. Charlene had been working with him, but she had decided not to work with him anymore because he was too dangerous to handle. And the injury was on a hind foot, a hind pastern, a hind right above the hoof. He had almost torn his hoof off, torn his foot off in an accident with wire and a trailer. And she was trying to repair all of that, but he was so fussy and pissy and uncooperative that she said, I'll give it one more chance, but only if Val goes with me and if she talks to this horse and he promises that he will cooperate and that he will not hurt me in any way, shape, or form. Because, think of it, JJ, this is a 1,200-pound horse, very powerful being. She had to literally lay beneath him and get between his hind legs to reach the spots that needed to be balanced and worked with. So I'm standing there and I'm telling him, I said, this is the deal. This is what we're trying to do. This is what her purpose is and why she's working with you today. And this is the opportunity. And he told me a bunch of stuff about how he felt and how upset and angry he was about everything and how he didn't like this and he didn't like that. And I listened and heard him out. We talked about things. And then I told him, I said, well, you have a choice. You can stay like you are now and your leg will hurt the rest of your life. You'll never have full mobility again. Or you can give Charlene permission and promise that you'll take good care of her while she tries to help you. So that's your options. What do you want to do? And he said, I want the help. And he looked at her, reached out with his nose, threw his head up and down. Yes, 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 yes. And then he assumed the pose and froze like a statue. JJ, he did not move. She got between his feet. She leaned down. She's working up in the groin. She's doing all the stuff. And he's talking to me the whole time. He's saying, okay, that hurts, at which point I would tell her and she would shift, what she was doing. Or, oh, that feels really good. Yes, do that some more, please. So, it was an interactive session between the three of us. And he went on to regain mobility. He went on to compete. He did dressage. It literally saved that horse's life. Just the art, the heart and the art of the communication piece. So there's so much that can be done with this. She took me to work with a world champion cutting horse breeder and trainer. I worked with a stud colt. It was a great story, lots and lots of fun, but wound up saving him from being castrated, which was quite the story. And then I wound up at the San Antonio Rose Palace, and they were doing a pre-Olympic trial competition. And riders and horses had come in from all over the country. They were all there competing, and Charlene took me with her, and she's introducing me to some of the riders. And I didn't know anything about dressage at that time. So she's showing me, teaching me a bit. And she introduces me to a rider, a trainer, rider, world-class Grand Prix dressage person. Anyway, as soon as he heard that I could talk to animals, he grabbed me by the arm and he dragged me across the arena saying, you have to talk to my horse. You have to talk to my horse right now. I was like, okay. So we get there and it turns out, and we're back in the stalls standing there with this horse. And it turns out that the horse is perfect in practice, but when they get in the show arena, he messes everything up. He misses the cues. He does the wrong thing. He messes up the timing, doesn't pick up the right leads. So the guy is convinced that he's doing it on purpose. and of course he's doing it in competition where he can't be corrected for it. He can't be drilled on it where he's, the horse is in charge during the competition. Anyway, so I'm talking to the horse. His name was Oxy. And I asked Oxy why he was doing this. What's going on? And Oxy told me that he was very angry and upset with his person. And he named off 3 different things that his person had done that he wanted an apology for. And he also wanted a change in the way that he was being trained. And so I relayed that to his person. And the guy, kind of an arrogant little guy, I'm sorry, but he was like, "You want me to apologize to my horse?" Oh, okay, fine. I'm sorry. And the horse turned his butt to us, swished the tail, and said, "That's not good enough." And yeah, I didn't have to translate that. But the guy, he got a bit upset. He left me there in the stall with his $1 million horse. And we're standing there, and Oxy comes over to me, and I said, "Oxy, what should I do?" And he said, he'll get over it. He'll come back. He's a good guy at heart. He just needs to think about it for a little bit. And so there you go. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, he comes back. He looks at me sheepishly, and he says, "I've thought about everything you've said. You're absolutely right. I did do all of those things. I get it about the training." And he offered a sincere apology to his horse. Oxy reaches out with his nose. He touches this guy on his heart chakra. He puts his head in the guy's arms, and they stood that way for a moment. And then they went out and they won their competition. That was a Saturday. Monday morning, he called me from Houston, where he has a training barn and facility. And he called very early that morning, and he said, "When can you get to Houston? I have other horses and some of my clients need you." And so that's when I decided I better start charging for my work.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize this was all for free, even with your friend.
I know, I was testing and learning and growing. I mean, I didn't get the pleasure of taking a course with anybody like we can do now. I was completely on my own. I didn't know anybody could even do this. And I didn't know the extent of my skills either. It was like my intuition was just blooming, right? So yeah, it was great. So I started that. I worked with veterinarians. I worked with Olympic quality show horse hunter jumpers, racing horses. That's how I got my start, really, is working with performance and sport horses. But of course, I work with dogs and cats and birds and rabbits and ferrets and you name it. Everything is sentient. All creatures, all beings are sentient, intelligent, feeling, reasoning beings, every single one of them. And they all communicate using a form of energy, one that we call or think of maybe as telepathy. But you're right. You touched on this earlier. The clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance. Every one of us is born with those intuitive gifts. What we do with them is up to us. But I'll tell you, if you've ever had an animal look at you and you knew that they had something they needed to tell you, that is not your imagination. That's the truth. And it's up to you to open and accelerate and activate your senses. And when we do that, I believe animals are angels, teachers, guides, and healers. They're in our life for a reason. They have a purpose with us. How do we discover that? By respecting, recognizing, revering them for who they truly are. And when we do all of that, we communicate with them and they make us better people.
So I love that. And I can't wait to share your class and take your class and share it with other people. I'll tell this now because at one point I have a membership. It's my Inner Circle membership. And I had someone who was going to come on the show and I had this idea of teaching a class with her. I have an audience. They want to learn these things. I think it was before I had done my strengthening intuition course. So I thought, okay, do you guys want to do a pet communication class? And of course I had a lot of people say yes. So I have a session with a person and it doesn't feel accurate. And actually, I didn't even have the session. I had an interview that never aired because of everything that kind of transpired. And I had taken her class, which was at that point, because I was the only one that signed up, it was just a one-on-one. And I got to practice and I got feedback from her. But there was something that just wasn't resonating when we got to the show and how she read some of my animals. So it ended up that her guides told her it wasn't a good idea. And I was having doubts. So I never did it. So I actually have an entire, for any of you that are in the Inner Circle membership, you've been waiting for this. This is what we're going to do. So if you're listening right now and you can't wait to sign up, go to jjflazanes.com/animals so that you can be linked to Val's class, which I'll be taking also. But, when it comes to our intuition, even when someone says they are intuitive or when they're clairvoyant, there's still the resonance, right? There's still that resonance of connection or is this message on a frequency that I A, believe, and B, resonate with. And so I mean, I already know you and I have met so online about 2.5 years ago. And so this has been in the making. I think you've been so busy. I haven't been able to get a hold of you to do this show. So I'm glad we're finally getting around to this. But, if this resonates with you guys, and I understand completely, Val, you're in a business where you didn't know people got paid for this. You didn't recognize your skill set. You didn't understand its value. And you started out with the people who want it the most. What I'm really over here in awe about, and so pleased to hear, is how something like this, when back then, I mean, I would think, especially, we're not very conscious still in the world right now. So to know that people were open, even though you're getting results, there was no question, but that people were open and didn't just look at you funny and think you were crazy, and that you didn't think you were crazy. So many people who hear voices are told they're crazy. I want to go back for a second. Did you ever share with your parents that you could hear the animals talk to you?
You mean as I was growing up? And I
Yeah.
totally agree
Yes.
with you, by the way. No. No,
Okay.
no, I
So
didn't.
okay. Well, that was probably good because
Yeah.
then you had nobody to tell you were crazy, and you had nobody to tell you were wrong, and nobody to have you second guess yourself. So that was a great decision. I have another question. You don't have to answer it, but do you know your astrology?
I know a bit of it. What specific?
Your sun sign, your moon sign.
Yeah, sun and moon are Cancer, and all 5 of my other houses are Leo.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. So we got the nurturing water connectivity aspect going on, mothering, all of that stuff going on. So, okay, just curious. I always, when we get into these kinds of conversations, most people are open to answering that question. It gives me another set of tools to facilitate understanding and levels of frequency and how things connect together. It doesn't mean
Right.
anything necessarily. It just is always interesting to me.
Yeah.
So now you're working with show horses and, like you said, Olympics and at that
Yeah.
level. And at what point did you say, okay, I want to teach classes and work with dogs and cats? And was it just an evolution?
Well, working with dogs and cats and other animals was a very natural revolution. Maybe that is a revolution. But anyway, I'd be on site or at a stable or something working with the horses, and oh, there's the dog. Yeah, would you ask my dog, blah, 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 right? I just, okay, sure. Well, you know what? I've got a cat at home. And what about this? Yeah, blah. Anyway, that it just naturally opened. But here's the thing, as a highly sensitive, empathic person, being with people was very different than being with animals. And I think a lot of animal lover, highly sensitive people kind of relate to that. It's, people in my experience in growing up, well, people are not all that safe to be with. They lie, they manipulate. They will flat out to your face tell you a story, a fib, and pretend it's for real. And me as a sensitive who knows the truth, there was a long time that was part of the suicide and the depression, the massive depression I fell into as a teenager. The world didn't make sense to me because humans were so crazy pants, wackadoodle, you know. Animals, I always felt safe with animals. We always communicated. They were always trustworthy, given what we knew, how we knew each other. I was known for befriending wild animals, and how the things I could do with animals nobody else could seem to do. So when I got into working with animals, communicating and beginning to work with healing, The last thing I wanted to do was work with the humans. But here's the problem. They're connected. The human is my client. They're the ones paying me, or they're the ones that call me. They're the ones that are needing the help. In fact, one of the things that I say is that people come to me because they're struggling with their pets, and then I help the animals who are struggling with their people. So I went through a phase there where I really didn't want to do more with humans. I really only wanted to work with animals, but it was a kind of a faceplant moment, big duh, that I had to learn how to do that. And so I did. And I went ahead and learned um, how to teach communication with animals. I've expanded on basics and foundational pieces. I've added my own bits to that makes my training different than most, if not every, well, it's uniquely different. The heart wisdom method of learning communication. In fact, I have the heart school of animal communication and the heart system for solving problems with pets. So it all kind of grew from there, and that was my first class that I taught was in 1996. So this isn't my first rodeo, as they say in Texas. So.
Well, I am excited to learn more about your class. I know when we touched base a couple months ago about, or maybe even last year, about my cat Sugar, and you were too busy, you referred me to Stephanie, I believe, and she was lovely and she had some good things.
Good.
But I also remember you mentioning body talk, and body talk it's not that old, right? I mean, so I feel like you keep growing and keep learning yourself to apply different methods, correct?
That is correct. Yes, I do. Here's the thing, what I learned pretty early in my practice. Humans and animals mirror each other. We are connected. I call that the human animal body mind connection. Animals will mirror their person. They will act out our inner wounds. They act out our stress. They mirror that for us. They can even take on and carry our illnesses. So the more I started getting into trying to understand this phenomenon, and it is extraordinary, the more I was guided into working with people. And I went to the Heart Institute and graduated there. I did the body talk, all the body talk stuff. It took like 8 years of intensive study with the body talk and advanced Parama level training, working with people and animals. I did body mind assessment and quantum leap therapies, and and partly I'm learning for my own self. I want to heal myself. I've gone through phases where I've been terribly, terribly ill myself. So I'm applying and practicing what I've been learning since the 80s. Um, how does this apply and work with animals and people? So soul repair, hugely important. Nobody talks about these things. They are the hidden secret to health and well-being. So yeah, it is really, really important. In the way that I teach animal communication, it's a healing spiritual journey. And it does guide you into becoming the best version of yourself possible. It up levels. Yeah.
Well, I think life is a mirror to us for all kinds of things. Other people definitely are animals. I think people don't realize. I actually, now that I think about it, I have had another person on here. She's not an animal communicator. She just is someone who was using different kinds of tools with animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we had that discussion on the show about how, she'll come in if there's something going on with the animal, then she turns around to the humans to say, hey, what's going on with you? Because your animal's just absorbing whatever's going on with you. And, I know that for, like, if I think back to different situations with animals in my life and my home environment for each of those and how things changed when the environment changed, I'll be interested to see what's going on right now with said cat or cats. But are there tips? So I know we can't, this is specific work for the human and the animal, their soul connection, the body talk stuff, what's going on with the human, what's going on with the animal. But are there some general let's say instructions that someone today, maybe you're not doing a class tomorrow, maybe they're not ready, they can't afford it yet, they're going to work up to it, or they just, something is calling to them. Are there things that we can share with people that they can do, whether it be a meditation, some kind of connection, some kind of visualization that they can do in order to better receive what their animal is wanting to communicate with them?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. All right. So on my website, there's a free ebook. And JJ, you've got your link to jjflizanes.com/animals, everybody. So go there. And one of the things you'll get is my free ebook. The free ebook teaches you the 3 fundamentals for communicating with animals, and it teaches you how to send a message. Remember that communication involves sending and receiving, right? Part of it is to create the communication or the message you want to send and then deliver it, and then be open and receptive enough to receive what they have to say back. So the book will teach you how to send a message. Let me give you some of that today so that people can get started on it. And then we'll see how much time we have left. I can take you through an exercise. And I love doing this. It's so much fun. So remember that we have subtle senses as well as physical ones. So subtle sight in our physical sight. We have subtle sense of feeling, so how we feel. So we can be touched, right? Physically touched, you feel that, but you can also feel a lot of other things. And then subtle hearing, so subtle, the voice in your head kind of thing, as in addition to what you actually hear with your physical ears. Now, in communication work, we're activating the subtle senses more so than our physical ones. Yes, communication does come through body language, of course, but that's such a small component of the entire communication, the entire message. So don't get stuck on just looking at body language. Let's open those gates and open those pathways and explore a bigger picture. So when you send a message to an animal, there are 3 main things. One is to see it in your mind. See it like you're a video or a movie producer of your own show. Let's say you want to, I'm going to have you give me an example, JJ. If you were going to tell your cat maybe, or an animal a message, tell me a topic or a theme. What would you like to tell them?
I have questions more than I want to tell them, I guess.
Okay.
So we'll save the questions for another time, thinking of sugar, but let's go to Domino. So what would I want to tell Domino? That I'd want to let her know that Doug and I love her very much, and I'm happy to always be available to her, but sometimes he needs to work and not have her jump up on the desk or demand to be in his lap because he wants to take a little bit of a break, but he still loves her very much and is happy to receive her in other parts of the day when he's not working.
Aha, gotcha. Perfect. It's a great example. All right, good. So if you were shooting a video and there's Domino and there's Doug, right? Doug is working. I'm assuming he's doing computer something. Yes.
Yeah, he's a podcaster as well. So
Okay,
he's on
gotcha.
Zoom a lot. He's recording.
Got it. Okay, good. So he's on the computer. He's maybe doing a podcast, doing a show, whatever. He's doing his thing. And there's Domino, right? You see her, right? And she sees him, and she is going to go over there. I'm sure you've seen this or can imagine it. She goes over there and she's looking at him, and she jumps up and she gets in his face. She gets in his lap. She sticks her butt up in front of the Zoom webcam, whatever she does, right? Do you have that image? Like you can see it happening?
Every day.
Every freaking day. I got it. All right. So you've got the video, you've got the image in your mind. You can see it in your mental monitor. That's the first part. The second part is to notice what you would be feeling if that was actually happening. So even just thinking about it now, you can probably feel how you would feel, and you surely can understand how Doug feels. So we can bring those emotions into play. The key with using emotions, here's some tips for you. Animals see what we hold in our mind's eye. They pick up what emotions, which are energy in motion, they pick up our feelings, and they hear what we say. They also see our body language, but we're not worrying about body language right now. This is different. So you're seeing it in your mind's eye, and you're going to show it to them on your mental monitor, and you're connecting your feelings so that they match and go with the story. And that's really important, because we humans are often not present. We're in the future or in the past. We're rehashing stuff. We're making a to-do list, whatever we're doing in our head, monkey brain chatter, right? All over the place, bouncing off the walls like a pinball. We've got that going on, and we've also got different emotions, and we put different emotions in our body mind. Like with Valkyrie, the horse, she put her anger, her rage, her frustration in her hip, in that knot in her hip, right? We do that with our stomach, with our shoulders, around our heart, our chest, our jaw. We've, at any given time, a human, let's see, an unconscious, not awakened kind of a human, maybe, is not in alignment with their emotions. Does that make sense, JJ?
Absolutely. We are all absolutely. Yeah. I have a client whose dog was licking, and she's got, her husband's very nervous and has a lot of anxiety. And then they also experienced a trauma in the house a couple of years ago. And when she told me that story, and I thought, well, here we go, where some of this is coming from. It's not just, it's the environment that we're in. And so, yes, energy is palpable to everybody. And no matter who's emanating it, someone else is receiving it, or at least able to interpret, discern, or be affected by it.
Mm-hmm. You got it. All right. So for the purpose of sending a message to an animal, our goal is to become in alignment and congruent with the message at all levels. So if I'm telling you a story that is kind of funny on the surface, but I'm actually grieving or angry about on the inside, how you receive that story is not going to be a happy, funny story. It's actually going to be tinged with sadness or grief or anger, right? Because the emotions come through everything we do. Even if I'm not conscious of how I'm really feeling right now, I'm pretending to be socially, politically correct, maybe, who knows? Right?
Well, actually, that's exactly why I don't like a lot of female comics. It's so funny because they're self-deprecating, but they freaking mean it. They mean it. And I don't like it, because I'll sit there and be very uncomfortable when other people are laughing. And I'm like, that's mean. That is mean to you. It is not healthy. Anyway, and that's not all female comics, but I find that a lot of female comics try to work out their shit in that way. And it's uncomfortable, because I actually feel the lack of self-love versus, right. And everyone thinks, oh, but they're being funny, and we're just taking, no. It's incongruent. And it's also out of integrity when it comes to your higher being, knowing that you're perfect just the way you are. And so anyway, as I digress, continue.
You're awesome, JJ. All right. So yeah, but you get the point. So yeah, we have to be in alignment with our emotions. And you know what? If you don't feel happy, don't pretend that you are, because your animals are so confused by that. They do not understand how we could pretend to be something we're not, because they read us in the big picture and at a very deep soul level, energetic blueprint level. So for the purpose of this exercise, you see it in your mind, like you're watching the video, right? And you're feeling what you would be feeling if that was actually happening. The third thing is you're telling the story. Now, when you get really good at it, you can just tell them in your mind. But in the beginning, I always have my students speak it out loud. And that helps us stay on point with the story and continue to stay in alignment with it, right? It's easy to bounce all over the place in our mind. Not as easy if we're actually speaking and telling a story. It brings our focus a little more conscious, a little more clear. So those are the three basics. Now let's use our exercise. And before I do, any questions? Does that make sense?
Well, I have the setup as see it in your mind like a movie. Notice where I am feeling it. And then what was this third step?
See it, feel it, say it.
Oh, say it. Okay. Say it to the animal or say it out loud. Just
Correct.
in general. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And by the way, you do not have to be controlling your pet. You don't have to be holding them. You don't have to be staring in their eyes with a or anything like that. This works over a distance. It works with animals who've never met. And yes, it absolutely works with your animals there at home. So, all right, see it, feel it, say it. Got it. So let's go back to our scenario. So there's Doug working on the computer doing his thing, and there's Domino. Now, two things. We could do a worst case scenario story to help Domino understand what the problem is, what we're afraid of, what is upsetting us, and then tell her the best case scenario, what we would prefer to have happen, what would be better, what would be fabulous if she would do. Yes? So let's start with the worst case scenario. As you described it, I'm going to talk us through it. And if you want to change the story, hop up. Okay, tell me. So there he is working, freeze frame, press pause on your video. So how do you feel when he's in his office doing his thing, working?
With or without her? You mean with her in there?
Yeah, she's not in there yet. That's before we get into that.
How do I feel when he's in his office working?
Yes.
If it's when I don't have to be recording a show and he's not loud, because our current setup is we're moving, but in our current setup, we're like literally we share a wall. So when he's recording, he gets very boisterous and happy and loud,
Yeah.
and it's disrupting to me, and vice versa. I'm equally loud and excited. So it doesn't work when we're both recording, which doesn't happen that often. So as long as we're both working quietly, I'm fine. but if it's in the case of we're overlapping, then I might be a little tense.
Okay. Now that is brilliant to notice. So Domino is picking up not only what's going on with Doug, but also what's going on with you. Right? So it would be interesting to notice if she interrupts Doug more when he's being loud and boisterous and annoying to you, or if she does it at other times as well. And I'm betting she probably does both. But you might want to make a note. Remember the human animal body mind connection. When you're feeling annoyed with him or tense, own it, be responsible for it, and be clear with Domino that she does not have to go in there and interrupt him on your behalf. That you're a big girl. If you need to tell him to be quiet or go take care of yourself somewhere else for a little while, then you are capable of doing that. She does not need to act that out for you. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what I'm loving about this for therapeutically for people, right, is rather than focus on the behavior of the animal, focus on your behavior and why the animal might be doing that. And I think too often we are all looking at our animal and say, why do they do that? Why do they do that? Why are they doing that? And the focus is on the animal versus the animal's response to what we're doing.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that out. That is so important because this is the key to changing behavior. Behavior modification and accelerating training and performance and everything is to own our stuff and to be really clear with the animals what we want them to help us with and what we do not need their help with. Right? So it's really, really important. I'm wanting to tell you another story, but we're kind of in the middle of something, so I guess I should wait. Anyway,
you can come back, Val. Like it's okay.
Good. I could come back. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So there you are. So that's our setup before we even begin the story, right? You're clear with the video, you're feeling it, and you're saying it. And we started the video, we paused it, checked yourself, and you noticed there's some stuff there. Right? that she could, in fact, be acting out for you. So having that little quick conversation is really important. So we're telling Domino she does not need to defend you or to interrupt him or anything. She doesn't need to act any of that out for you. It's okay. All right, press play on your video and let's see what happens. All right, so there goes Domino. She goes right in there to check on her best bud, Doug. And this is the worst case scenario, right? So let's say that she pops up in the middle of everything like she tends to do. What if she knocked his coffee over? And that made a mess. And he's right in the middle of a show or doing something really important, a meeting, podcast, something. Freeze frame. Got it?
Got it.
All right. How would you and or Doug feel at this point in our story?
Well, even her going in there sometimes during the day, I'll get nervous that he'll get annoyed. I'll get nervous that he'll get annoyed. I'm less concerned she's going to knock something over. She's pretty, unlike Sugar, she's not a bulldozer, and she's no regular cat. So she doesn't really knock things over all that much unless she wants your attention. Specifically, it's more of him getting upset at her and getting mad at her and me wanting to protect her from those feelings he would direct at her.
Got it. Very good. Thank you so much. Okay. So you're owning how you're feeling, which is I'm nervous, I'm tense, you're upset in this point. You want to protect her because you know Doug is not happy. He's going to be pretty upset and he'll be mad at her. And it's not going to be a pretty scene. What will happen next is, yeah, I get it, right? All right, so turn the volume up on those feelings a little bit. Let yourself feel them. And there's a worry, there's a care and a concern, there's a mothering. Thank you, JJ. Good mama. Right? There's other stuff. There's emotions are such a big thing. So notice your energy. Your energy becomes discordant, a little bit unstable. You're not breathing very well at the moment. You're in a fight, flight, survival kind of a upsetting scenario, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right, and now let's focus with Doug. So Doug, that temper, right, that short fuse. So here she is trying to help him. She's trying to help him. And he explodes. He's mad. He's upset. He's, and who knows, maybe in the kerfuffle, something gets knocked over. Who knows? It's worst case scenario, right? He does something awful. Somebody gets hurt. There's screaming, there's crying, right? This is terrible. This is really, really frightening and awful. All right, freeze frame. Got it in your mind?
Yes.
Okay, and how would that make you feel? More of the same, or does anything else come up?
Well, I'd be conflicted and torn and angry and sad and afraid.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Well done. Well done. Conflicted, torn, angry, sad. And I think you said want something else.
Afraid.
Afraid. That was really important. Thank you. Okay. Got it. So let's zoom in. Speaking of zooming, let's focus in on Domino's behavior. Okay. So I'm going to shift gears and go ahead and talk to her for a second. So one of the things you'll notice when you do this technique, your intuition, if your intuition is active, even if one of the clairs are active for you, voyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, clairsentience, we can define those if we need to. But you'll start picking things up from the animal. They'll have questions, concerns. You'll start feeling their emotions. They may have feedback. They may have contribution, like, well, what if we did this differently? What if, different viewpoint. So when you're telling the story, be aware that as you tell it, there is always an opening for the animal to pop in and share their viewpoint or speak or contribute in some way. So in this case, Domino is feeling frightened. Dismayed is a big one. Dismayed. Hold on a second. I asked her, is that what you wanted to have happen? And she said, no. Okay, baby. So, Domino, what did you want to have happen when you went in to see Doug? She wanted to reconnect at his heart. Okay. And how would that be helpful? It would help him center. Okay. So, are you telling us that you feel like he gets uncentered, or she said he gets in his head? Oh, okay. JJ, does this make sense yet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
He's going to laugh.
Yeah, he'll love it. All right. So, Doug, when you're listening to this, own it. Say, oh, I get it. Oh, okay. And we're going to thank Domino for her caring, her love, her concern. And what would be more helpful?
Are you asking me?
Uh,
Or
well,
Domino?
I'm asking you both, actually. Do you have an idea what would be more helpful, JJ? Because Domino has an idea as well. Go
Oh,
ahead,
I'd
JJ.
love to hear Domino's idea.
Okay. Domino's idea is to come into his field of view, um, but stay away from him. In other words, not in his lap, not on the keyboard, not in front of the camera, none of that. But get in his field of view so he can see her. If he will promise that when he sees her, that he will get her message, which is to shift out of his head and come back into his heart and ground.
Can I
Oh,
ask her one more question?
yes.
She has been, it's probably been maybe 8 months. It's been about 8 months or more that she has, although it's getting better, that she's been stress cleaning.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I notice sometimes when she'll mirror Doug, uh, although he doesn't show it on the outside. He has had more anxiety than me, although it's gotten much better since he's moved in with me. But he used to
Okay.
be high anxiety, but he'd keep it with it, like he'd hold it. You wouldn't necessarily see it. But you could feel it. And so I feel like when he gets triggered by her nervous energy, that she is reflecting him. And
Yes.
I'm wondering, just want to make sure that the nervous cleaning is truly nervous cleaning and not a physical reaction to food or environmental things in either where we are here or anything that I'm doing in the house.
Yeah. Great question. That's brilliant. Well done. Okay, so let's check. Hang on. Okay, I'm asking her. She's saying that it does not feel like it's physical environment related. I'm checking a number of other things. So anything else in the environment, food, water, physical location, physical area. No, that does not read. I will tell you though, animals, especially cats, are hypersensitive to emotional attack, psychic interference, energetic, like extreme low magnetic frequencies, radio waves, satellite waves, all those kinds of things, Wi-Fi, internet. And right now it feels like this is a nervous stress cleaning, very much mirroring and trying to help Doug with the anxiety.
Okay, that's what I thought. Just wanted to confirm.
You
Since
confirmed it.
Yeah,
You did.
excellent.
You
Thank you.
did.
Well,
You
I
did.
again,
So,
I feel like I have answers for many of these things, but sometimes because I don't do this for a living and I'm not as clear as you, I second guess and doubt. And but I do. It's this thing that it bothers Doug, and it bothers him when she
yeah.
cleans,
Yeah.
and it bothers him when he thinks she's nervous. But I think she's just reflecting him.
She is absolutely reflecting him.
Yeah.
So what we can do is tell Domino that you're not helping. So we understand from the human animal body mind connection piece that she is mirroring his anxiety. She's trying to sponge it off and redirect it to try to help him. She said it's hurting his heart. Okay. So I'm going to tell her, and you do this with me. Is this a useful thing that Doug appreciates and wants her to do, to take that anxiety into herself? And is that helping him? And I have to tell you, Domino, no, it is not. It does not help him for you to do that. In fact, You get the opposite response, because when he sees you being nervous and anxious and tense and wound up and all of that, the stress cleaning, and you're in his face when he's trying to work and those kinds of things, it ramps his anxiety level up until he's out of control, until it's beyond. So what would be more helpful? And Domino, are you willing to give Doug back that piece and mirror something different for him so that he can calm and settle and clear the stagnant and bizarre energy there around his chest, and clear and get back into his heart and be more at peace and more present, because that's really your goal. That's what you're trying to do. We get it. And you know what, honey, we love you so much for wanting to do that. Thank you for trying to help your dad. Thank you. Oh, so precious and so sweet. So let's find a new path. Let's find a way that will work better for everybody. Okay, so JJ, going back to our story, the 3 steps: see it, feel it, say it. Best case scenario. So let's start the video from the scratch, from beginning, right? So here you are. And let's do best case scenario. All right. So here he is working, and let's say he's doing his usual thing. And there's Domino, and there you are, freeze frame. Now, earlier you said that you were nervous, a little tense, a little worried about him, right? A little worried about her and what was going to happen. So in this scenario, how would you like to feel instead?
Well, with this conversation and new awareness, and knowing that literally the minute we're done recording this, I'm going to send it to Doug to listen to it. So when we're all on the same page and she pops her head in and he now understands that he's not in his heart, I feel calm. I feel hope. I feel gratitude and appreciation for her and love for both of them.
Wow. You feel calm, hope, gratitude, and you're feeling your love. That is brilliant. So that's the energy we want to share with Domino. All right, so press play on your video. And let's imagine that she goes in and she notices that Doug is maybe a little he's in his head and he's a little disconnected. And so what does she do? What would be fabulous to help him? Because now he's going to know what her message is. So she could get in his line of vision, but not right in his face, right? She could get in his line of vision. And when he sees her, instant message of calm and settle and peace and reconnect and love. Doug shifts, best case scenario, Doug shifts, takes a nice big breath, relaxes, the anxiety lets go, the tension drops. He reboots or refocuses, right? And he's even better than he was before. Everything's even smoother, more harmonious, more in alignment, more in flow. And Domino could sit over there and purr and make love eyes at Doug because he got her message. And the energy is smooth. And it's one of gratitude and calmness and peace and love and respect. How would that feel?
Amazing.
Amazing. That's your story. That's your story. So your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to tell her that story and ask Doug to tell her that story. And y'all can continue to expand on it as you wish, as you're guided. But let's be really clear what we want to have happen versus what we don't want to have happen. Because you know what you do when we focus on what we don't want, what's bothering us, what's, frustrating or upsetting us, we keep focusing on that. Guess what? The universe gives us more to be upset about. It blows up the tension even more. We keep getting more of what we focus on. So how about we shift our focus to what we really want, which is calmness, peace, clarity, understanding, congruence, alignment, more empowerment, making more of a difference, and being healthier and happier. Would you say? Is that clear? Is that close?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It's
Okay.
basic law of attraction now through animals and
Thank you.
all the same steps of you can't just think it, you have to feel it.
Thank you. Thank you very
Mhm.
much. You got the message. Well
Mhm.
done, honey. Well done. So that's the how to send a message. You can use this for preparing them for a vet visit or surgery. You can use this for when Aunt Nellie's coming for a visit, when you're going on a trip, when it's vacation or holiday, when you name it. You can tell them anything and everything, and you can explore best case, worst case scenario. The point of that is to express for them and to show them clearly the consequences of the choices that they make. This is not mind control. We cannot make anyone do what we want them to do, and especially with animals, we can overpower and force them. But guess what? That doesn't work. Really doesn't work very well. But if we tell them and we talk to them like they're sentient and intelligent, and we tell them what they don't know yet, right? Then they can make better choices. And then we don't have to over control them or worry about them because they got it. I use this technique with a couple of show dogs, German short hair pointers. I think that was what they were. Anyway, they were chasing cars out in the country. They're chasing cars. They're having a fabulous time. One of them almost gets hit, and their people are horrified. And so I'm in there talking to the dogs, and I said, what's up with chasing the cars, guys? And they said, well, it's so much fun. It's so awesome. And we chase them off. Did you see that they leave every single time? And isn't this a great game? And I said, no, this is a terrible game. I get it. And here's what you don't know. And I told him all about cars and how dogs get hit by cars and cats too, and die all the time, every day, a tragic, needless deaths and injuries. Told them what would happen if they continued and how it made their people feel, which was, as you might imagine, horrified and very upset and dreading the day that their animals got, hit. And I helped them understand that when their people yelled at them, they were not, in fact, encouraging them on. That they were with the high energy of panic in their voice. No, you're misunderstanding the whole thing. And so I told them what actually could happen and what we were afraid of. And you know what? That was the last time they ever chased cars, ever. That was it. Done. Game over. So there's so much you can do with this. It's a brilliant technique. Now, the other side of it is to be able to receive what your animal needs to tell you back. So for that, it takes a good bit more work because we have to deal with our inner parts. We have to activate all of our senses. We have to learn how to get quiet and still and in our heart space and out of our head. We have to be an open, neutral witness, a receiver. There are a lot of other things that makes it a bit more complicated for humans. However, you are born knowing how to communicate at this level. You've simply forgotten and you haven't worked at it, haven't opened it back up for yourself. If it's a lifetime of exploration. It's fascinating. All right, I'm going to shut up for a second. JJ, your turn.
I'm guessing that when you go further, this is in your class.
Absolutely. So we have the Beginning Core Foundations course. It's absolutely wonderful. And it comes with Awaken Your Inner Guidance System, which is about working with your inner parts, turning on and activating your senses, things like that. Wonderful course. After you've got the basics, you want the Advanced Animal Talk Topics course, because once you know how to open the gateway and send and receive messages and begin to interpret them and stuff, once you start building your confidence and being able to do that, now we want to learn how to use communication to solve behavior problems, to help animals that are in pain or don't feel well, to use it to improve training and performance, to help prepare them for transitions, and to reconnect with them when they're on the other side. So once you've got your basics down, let's Let's ramp it up and learn how to use your skills in all kinds of scenarios and situations, from individuals to working with groups, to wild animals, to domestic animals, all sorts of things, you name it. The other thing that comes in my program, JJ, which is unique, I think, to my work, is the best online animal talk coaching and mastery club. We have a worldwide community of big-hearted animal lovers who are doing amazing things with this. They get live Q&A coaching calls every month. I teach master classes to take them way, way deeper into specific topics, to advance their skills, teach them healing techniques they can use to ease pain and accelerate healing. So it's really quite wonderful. And by the way, for any of you people looking for your purpose, and if this resonates with you, you might consider doing this yourself professionally. And for that, we have the GoPro Professional Animal Communicator Successful Business Building Program. So learning how to take your intuitive skills, your ability to communicate and work with animals, and make a successful career out of this, that would be your next step. And not everyone wants to do that, but if you do, we got you covered.
Now, is everything at the link that we're providing, jjflizanes.com/animals, or is this going to direct them specifically to the Core Foundations course?
This will direct them to the Heart School. They're going to be getting their free ebook, which is a wonderful place to start. And then they'll be shown the beginning course, and they can go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So everyone's going to get the three fundamentals to communicating with animals. Yes. Everybody can get that for free, and everybody who's interested beyond that to do the Core Foundations class, you just continue on and you'll be exposed to that. Okay. So I feel like there's more to talk about. And if you're willing to come back, we can put you back on the show because I would love to discuss body talk a little bit more. I know that you're teaching these things, and there's this, there's so much when it comes to animals because they are such a reflection of us. And you were telling the story about the dogs and their owners like yelling at them, their people. And I thought, that just doesn't work with anybody. Yelling at anybody never works for anything, except if it's just in a practice of allowing you to express your emotions. Otherwise, yelling at anybody doesn't get them to do what you think you want them to do. So whether it be your animal or a human, yelling is really only for you. And I would really encourage everybody to yell in a room by yourself. And then once you're done yelling, communicate clearly in a different way, because yelling at someone will never get them to do what you want them to do long-term in integrity and in alignment and in joy. So it won't work. But I love this. I hope you'll be able to come back. Everyone, please go to jjflizanes.com/animals to get your free ebook, the 3 fundamentals of communicating with animals. And please check out Val's course, the Core Foundation course, and then the advanced animal topic course.
Animal Talk Mastery course, and then the Animal Talk Coaching and Mastery Club, which is where you get to build your confidence, you get to practice, get feedback, appropriate feedback. We have the featured animal teacher of the month, which could be your pet, could be Domino next month, JJ. And then all the students can practice and play with and communicate. We've got so many cool things, intuition development lessons, ongoing new trainings every month, you name it. Lots and lots of fun things for animal lovers to do and learn and grow and evolve into your highest and best self. It's the whole point of it all, don't you think?
Absolutely. Val, this is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope to have you come back, and everybody go to jjflizanes.com/animals now and get your ebook to start the 3 fundamentals of communicating with animals, and then continue on the journey to get whatever is calling to you after this conversation today. Thank you so much for being here, Val.
I'm delighted. Remember that your animals give you their lives and their hearts. So listen to them and pay attention to them and communicate with them. That's the gift you can give back to them.